Good afternoon and welcome to the first part of our Crowdfund Birmingham series. My name's Sami. I'm Head of Coaching and Project Innovation here at Crowdfunder, and I'm actually broadcasting live today from Crowdfunder HQ. We're also really lucky to be joined by Anna, our funding matchmaker, who you can see down there in the corner. There she is. And she's going to be telling us a little bit about the funds that are available for you guys to access, particularly if you're in Birmingham. It's going to be a little bit later on. Okay, so first of all, a little bit about us, Crowdfunder. So we are the UK's largest rewards-based platform. As I say, we're based down in Cornwall, and we get around about 150 to 200 projects that actually start crowdfunding, start adding their idea on Crowdfunder every day. So that gives you a bit of an idea as to how many people are engaging with crowdfunding and Crowdfunder, of course. So how crowdfunding works, I want to make sure that everyone's really clear on what crowdfunding is and of course what it isn't. So we're rewards-based crowdfunding. So the way that it works is really simple. You create your unique page on Crowdfunder, which explains what it is that you're trying to do, and you set yourself a target, so how much money you need and how long you need to reach it. That can be anywhere from 2 weeks up to 8 weeks. So it's all about sort of short, sharp fundraising. So once you've set that page up and you set it live and you spread the word to your friends, your family, people that you know from work, people in your community, basically telling everyone that you know about what it is that you're trying to do. People who like your idea, who like what you're saying, they can either donate some money and do it kind of a typical donation and not get anything in return, or they can pledge some money in return for a reward that they'll receive later on once your project has been successful. And we're going to talk a little bit later in the next session about what those rewards might be. But there's lots of information online. Essentially, a reward can be anything from a thank you to a product, to an invitation to an event or an experience. There's really a broad range of things that you can offer as rewards. Okay, so here's a little bit of an example so we understand exactly what rewards crowdfunding is. And here you can see Lynn and Rebecca in their van, and those of you with a keen eye may have noticed there's actually a goat in the back of their van, which is what their project was all about. They wanted to start an urban goat farm in Bristol. And what they did to sort of get that going, get it off the ground, was to crowdfund for that first bit of money that they needed to get things going. So they set up their project. They were offering all sorts of rewards, things like opportunities to come along to the farm. You can see there they're screen printing some tote bags. And of course, things like actual goat's cheese when the farm's up and running. And you can see over the course of 4 weeks, 167 people from their community put in a little bit of money in return for a reward, and they actually raised just over £9,000. And you can see there that they got the farm up and running. So why did they bother doing this? And actually there was for a number of reasons. But crowdfunding isn't just about goats. There's so many other things that you can crowdfund for, of course. It can be anything from community projects to starting up a new business or even business. There's really a huge range of projects on Crowdfunder. So I definitely advise jumping on the website and having a look at what kinds of projects are funding. So going back to just a moment ago, why did Lynn and Rebecca bother crowdfunding? And actually, it was so much more than the money. I know it's in the name, crowdfunding, so you think, yes, get some funding. But for them, actually, a big thing was about validation. So they have this maverick idea that they want to set up an urban goat farm in Bristol. Crowdfunding is a really great way of them finding out and testing, does anyone else think this is a good idea, or is it just us? Are we the only people who think this is a good idea? And actually, by setting up their crowdfunder and raising that money, they have at least 167 other people who think that it's a good idea. So it's a tick in that box that it's something that other people as well, that awareness. And you'll find that when you go through the process of doing a crowdfunding project, you'll be shouting the loudest and proudest that you ever have done before about what you're doing, because it's something outside of the ordinary, it's outside of the day-to-day, and it's very focused on the specific aim over a short period of time. It works really well as kind of a big marketing push to really raise that profile of what you're doing. We also find that people who support crowdfunding projects tend to become advocates as you go through and sort of move on into the future of your project. And a lot of that is because people were there, they feel very much part of that journey, that they helped you go from conception to kind of completion, if you like, that they were along for the ride, that their heart is very much in it, people feel very close and almost very responsible and very much a part of what it is that you're doing, that those people will come back, they'll be your customers again in the future, they'll be your advocates, they'll be the people that will be coming along and supporting you in the things that you do in the future. And finally, something which is pretty unique to Crowdfunder is the extra funding that we have available to people who are running projects on Crowdfunder. And actually, Anna's going to tell us a little bit more about extra funding and what that means and how you access it in just a moment. So at this stage, people sometimes ask, what's the catch? It sounds great. This sounds amazing. I get money, I get to raise my profile and make this thing happen. So there is a fee, and it's a small fee of 5% plus VAT, and that's on everything that you successfully raise that you collect. There's also a fee charged by our payment provider, which is Stripe, which is all of the sort of debit and credit card payments. If you've ever bought anything online, you've probably used Stripe, you just don't necessarily know that you have. And there's a small fee for all of those payments as well, so do bear that in mind. You can find all of the information about the fees and charges on Crowdfunder just by going to the website and clicking on the fees link at the bottom. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Anna, who's going to tell us a little bit more about extra funding, what it is and how you can access it.
Yes, hello everyone. So, my mic went down a little bit. I'm going to tell you about the extra funding that we have available on Crowdfunder. And what it basically is money from our partners available for projects, and they put this money on like a pledge, just like any other pledge, and it goes towards projects' targets. So if you click the link or visit the link above, you'll get to see the full breadth of extra funding options we have available. But today I'm just going to focus on a couple that are specific to Birmingham. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Community Innovation Fund. So what this fund is all about is basically, Birmingham City Council want to support projects that help reduce too much reliance on adult social care. If your project can help the community feel a bit more resilient, if you can help improve the health, well-being and independence of people in Birmingham, then do have a look at this fund, have a read of the criteria and what it's all about, and you could apply. The other Birmingham fund that we have available is called Brum Smiles. And this one is all about young people. So if your project focuses on people under the age of 25 in Birmingham and helps them be more healthy or increase their well-being, then again, have a look at this fund because you could be eligible. So the next question is, how do you apply for these funds? So to apply, you just have to sign up to Crowdfunder and start creating your project. And this sort of notification will pop up. So if you click Tell Me More, it will take you to this next page where you'll be able to see the full criteria and do have a read of it. Make sure that when you fill in the application form, you address all those little bits and pieces. It's a really simple form. It's a lot easier than many other grant applications if you've had any experience with that. So we've tried to make it really breezy for projects to access this funding. So yeah, that's the Birmingham funding that we have available. It's great that we're partnering with Birmingham because they're really keen to help projects. So have a read of them and see if you can apply. So I'm going to hand it back over to the Crowdfunder guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Anna. That's really great. So hopefully that gives everyone a bit of an idea of some of the funds available. And of course, there are national funds available on Crowdfunder as well, that might be really good for your project if you're looking at those first two funds and thinking, I'm not sure if it quite fits what I'm doing. Head on to that crowdfunder.co.uk/funds and see all of the national funds there as well. So for the rest of the session today, we're going to be focusing specifically on planning your project. And that's the first in the 3 steps to success that we sort of divide it down to your crowdfunding journey. So we start with planning. Then we move on to creating your project, so that's the actual page itself, and then the running, which is marketing, promotion, how do you get it out there, how do you spread the word, all of those things. I will mention at this stage that all of the information that you need to run a successful crowdfund is available in these 3-part guides. So they're downloadable. You can edit right in the PDF. They're very jazzy and high-tech like that. Or you can download them and print them off and scribble all over them and use them as much as you'd like to. So within each of those guides, it's basically a step-by-step to exactly all of the things that you need to do. So if there's only one thing you take away from this session today, it's download the guides and read them. And you can find those on the Crowdfund Birmingham campaign page. You can also find them in the Eventbrite link that you signed up to today, as well as in a little box on the corner of this video, too, if you're watching this back. So first things first, you need to figure out who's going to be on your team, who's going to help me to run this crowdfunding project. We find that crowdfunding can be a little bit lonely if you're doing it all on your own, so it's a good idea to try and recruit a few people to help you out. It doesn't need to be anything overly formal. You don't need to present people with a certificate or a badge saying that you're on your crowdfunding team. It's basically just gathering up people that you know who you think actually would be really good at lending you a hand with doing some of these things. So we've identified here 8 different skills, if you like, that we think are pretty key to most projects. You, as the person who's come along today and is watching this video, is probably the project leader. And it might be actually that you can fill some of the other roles as well, particularly if you're a good writer, if you're really good on social media, or you're really well connected in your industry. It might be that actually you tick quite a few of those boxes yourself. But it's also a good idea to think about actually where could I do with a hand. If you've never made a video before, if you have no idea how to use Facebook, it might be worth thinking about who do I know who might be able to lend me a hand and help me out with these bits and bobs. And you can find all of this and some advice on building a team in that pack that I mentioned just a moment ago. So once you've got your team together, the next thing that's really important to do is to make sure that you have your ideas straight. And this may seem like a bit of a strange ask because you're probably thinking, well, I know what it is that I'm trying to do with my project. But it's important that you can really summarize that down into something really succinct, which is really easy for you to communicate to people really quickly and isn't overcomplicated. So we've got here a couple of examples of different projects and actually how we sort of distill down what it is that they were trying to do. And this is going to be really invaluable as we go through the other stages in crowdfunding, is kind of getting this nailed first up. So I've summarized here just a couple of points about some of these projects. So Food Works 2. This was the second project run by a group in Cornwall. And it was all about giving adults food skills, the ability to make better sort of healthy choices when we're talking about food, and also to actually save some money by making food rather than relying on things like ready meals and takeout to have to feed their families. So this is how we could distill that one down, for example. A really great project, which is actually just run really recently in Birmingham, called The Bridge. Now, that project was all about addiction recovery, and they were also offering really great support for homeless people. And it's based in Birmingham. So to distill that down really quickly into what they're all about, 3 points, really simple. Similarly, we can look at this organic garden that offers opportunities to disabled adults to come along and take part in looking after the garden and learn some skills along the way. And finally, this really great project, which has just finished really recently, which is about taking elderly people out on cycle rides, and that's all over Scotland. So we can see kind of how they've really distilled that down. Now, let's look at that last example in a little bit more detail. So expand cycling without age across Scotland. So what they were looking to do is to actually take this scheme where they have a volunteer who goes out on a bike called a trishaw, where you have 2 little seats in the front, and you can take people out on rides. So they were doing this already in Falkirk, I think it was, and actually they wanted to expand it out across Scotland. They raised just over £40,000, and they actually also received some extra funding that we mentioned earlier from one of our other funds, the Santander Changemaker Fund. And let's have a look at how they started to actually put together their crowd once they'd pinned down what it is they're all about. So, what's Cycling Without Age all about? What's the common ground? Who is going to support this project? First up, Scotland. It's all about Scotland. It's about the country. People who are in Scotland, people who care about Scotland, who love Scotland. That was something which was very central to their project. People who already know about Cycling Without Age, and that's that picture down in the bottom left corner. People who have already seen the good work that they're doing and actually think this is a really great thing that I would love to see expanded a little bit further. If we move over to the right, we can see cyclists, people who actually enjoy the thrill of cycling, enjoy that it gets you outside, and they can really see the benefits of that, not only for people like themselves, but potentially for elderly people. And as we move up back into that top right-hand box, we've got that focus on the elderly, on well-being for the elderly, on actually making sure that our grandparents aren't lonely and that they're getting out and about and that they're enjoying their lives, whether they're in a care home or whether they're in their own homes. So that's really how they started to think about the groups who might be interested in funding their project. Now they took that, and that's what they will have used to start building what we call a network map. And this is a little template here. Now, before you start trying to scribble down all the different pods on that network map, it's in that downloadable PDF that I mentioned earlier. It's in the guide. So you can work from that, print it out, and start to build your own. But what it actually gives you is just some ideas of how you might start to think about who do I know, who might want to support my project. Most people start with friends and family. That's kind of the easy one. It's a really nice way to kind of get started and think about who do I know in my friends and family who might want to support this. And then you can start to move around the other groups and start to think a little bit wider, always bearing in mind that common ground and why someone might want to support the project. So take a minute just to have a look at that network map and maybe start to think about how some of those groups might be relevant for your project. Okay, so now you've got your network map together as we're moving through these stages. Have a look at the different people that you've actually put onto that network map and start to ask yourself the question, why are they going to pledge? What's their motivation? And it's quite useful to actually think about plotting those different people and those different groups onto this diagram. Generally, we can split people into 2 camps. There's people who support the project because they believe in what you're doing. They think it's going to do some good in the world. They think it's worthwhile. It's money well spent. The other side is people who want the reward. They want the thing that you're offering in return, whatever that might be, that experience, that product, that ticket to an event. And of course, that sort of green bit in the middle is where the 2 overlap. And that's what we call the sweet spot. That's where crowdfunding really works best. When you've got a strong idea that people can believe in, that they can really get behind, but you're also rewarding them with something which is worthwhile, something that they're going to want. And that's where we see projects that really do super well. So look at your network map, think about your project, and start to think about where on that map people are going to be plotted, because that's really going to help to inform some decisions about what kind of rewards you want to offer, how you talk about your project when you're talking about it on your page, and actually how you promote the project as well. So now we know who your crowd is and we know what they're all about, why they're going to be supporting you. Something that's really important to do before going live is to make sure that you're nurturing that crowd. Don't wait until launch day for your crowdfund to start telling people about what you're doing, particularly those people that we think are going to be very important to us and that are very much at that core of our network. We want to make sure that we're nurturing them beforehand. So that might be your friends and family. It might be people who are already within your sort of existing supporter base, local people, and whichever group is kind of relevant to your project. We want to make sure that they know about it, that they feel important before going live. And you can, of course, grow your crowd as well. And what we mean by that is start to expand on that network map. A network map is never finished. That's what I always look at it as. It's an ongoing, ever-evolving document. So keep adding names to it, keep adding groups to it, keep thinking about the different people, the different little pockets of people that might be interested in supporting your project. A really great tool for growing your network and growing your crowd is actually Facebook. Some people will know about this, but they might not have thought about it as a useful tool for crowdfunding. You can actually just search for a term in that bar at the top of Facebook, and it will show you people, pages, places, groups that might be relevant for what it is that you're doing. Now, I've just put in Birmingham as an example, just to kind of see what different events, different places or groups came up. And you can see really quickly, actually, it's a real treasure trove, where you can find different groups of people that might be relevant to your project. So if your project's about yoga, you could find it there. If your project's about local people, you could find it there. So start to have a little search around and see what you can find on Facebook. Join some of those groups and engage with some of those people. Now, before next time, make sure that you have downloaded those 3 PDF guides. I cannot stress enough how important that is. So do make sure that you've done that. Have a look at getting your ideas straight. What we mean again by that is figuring out exactly what your project's about. How do you define it? How do you tell someone about it in just a sentence or 2? And do make a start on your network map. Once you've got those guides downloaded, it'll be really easy. You can work from the template that's in there and start to have a look at that. And that's pretty much everything we were going to run through today. We've touched on some of the key elements, and as I said, all of the other bits and bobs are in that pack. So you should have everything you need to get going. If you have any questions at all, you can get in touch with me or anyone here in the team, and you can do that via email. That's support@crowdfunder.co.uk, or feel free to tweet us and get in touch that way as well. And the next session, where we're going to be talking about creating your project, is going to be at 12 PM, and that's in a couple of weeks on Thursday, the 28th of September. We're really going to be honing in on what makes the perfect project page, on what kind of rewards you can offer, what kind of rewards really motivate people, what's going to be the best way to make sure that when people land on your crowdfunding page, that they really connect with what you're saying and they're really motivated and enthused to make that pledge and make that connection. So we're going to be focusing on that next time. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you then. Cheers, bye.